Well, it's official. Marjorie Taylor Greene is out. She just announced her resignation. She put out a statement yesterday, 10-minute video basically covering the statement entirely that I saw on X. Mike, what do you think about this breaking news?
I love it. I approve. Let's do it.
I don't know. I'm bittersweet about it. I
In
think
what way?
I think that she was one of the few members of Congress that actually started to open up a little bit, open her eyes and mind, and she started turning a new leaf recently. Now, I don't know how much of that is BS and just politics and her playing games, but she did start being a bit more open about Trump and the Epstein files specifically. That was probably the biggest rift I think that went between her and Trump, which I think is one of the biggest stories of, the decade, if we can say that, which I think is pretty accurate. So I want to give her credit where it's due, where she held him, his feet to the fire on the Epstein files, which is one of the biggest things. Um, I also appreciate the fact that she was one of the few members of Congress to not take any AIPAC money, and she was open about that.
Mm, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, in her resignation statement, she did mention that America First should not be about serving a foreign nation as kind of like a nudge to that. So I did appreciate that. And she mentioned a few things in her statement that I did agree with. I mean, she called out the two-party system failing for Americans. She talked about term limits, and she said Congress should not be, quote, a assisted living facility, which I thought was really interesting. And it's like, yay, we need more people saying stuff like that. So, but it's weird because she is saying all of these things now during her resignation, which makes me think like now she's able to say those things. Like if she was planning to stay in Congress and run for reelection and all these things, she probably wouldn't have been able to say all these things that she's saying now in this resignation statement. So I I guess I'm happy that, MAGA is falling apart and that civil war is really imploding the whole movement. And her rift with Trump and others have been a big part of that. But also hearing what she's saying now, it's almost like, damn, we actually need more people in Congress who really think and feel like that if she's telling the truth. So I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I question how genuine she is about that with this change of heart. Because as she mentioned in her statement, the Republicans are in campaign mode. So her election's coming up. And it's very convenient that now she's suddenly speaking the voice of reason after the blue wave, not before. So I don't trust it. She's proven to be a snake, but I don't mind the infighting. I think an enemy of my enemy is my friend, but I don't think I'd give her friend status. I just say, okay, she's not an enemy. Maybe we could go that far. So that's how I feel about it. I didn't know the stuff about APAC. I do like I want all of our members to not be funded by APAC if possible. So to know that is great. And yeah, I also found myself agreeing with a lot of what she was saying in her statement as well, which surprised me. It's not a comfortable feeling. I know the Daily Show made an entire segment about that, but yeah, I think my personal take on it is this is good news.
Yeah, I mean, she did say some things I did not agree with. Like she attacked the Green New Deal, which I'm like, what, you don't want like green technology, you don't want jobs for people to do. And that's one of Bernie's platform, actually, one of his strongest platform pillars, the Green New Deal. I don't know why she called that out, but I think part of her speech was like, let me just show that I'm still a Republican at heart. So let me attack the Green New Deal, which is just one of the dumbest things. But she also mentioned one thing I liked that she mentioned is she called out the Republicans and said they will likely lose the midterms. But she kind of framed it in a way where she was like, I don't want to have to campaign and then probably and then likely win only to have the Republicans at large lose the midterms, and I'm like kind of here stranded by myself. She kind of tied that into the whole, like, the two parties are failing Americans and what's the point of me even being here, you know? Like, that was one of the big themes that I got from the speech, was like she's kind of calling out that the whole entire political process is broken, and her remaining in Congress doesn't change that. It doesn't do anything. So I did appreciate that thread, you know?
Yes, but I think there's a very specific caveat there, and this is very MTG in my opinion. This is very much where like she'll say something I agree with, but there's like a slant to it where I'm like, if you follow that breadcrumb, you can see that like it's disingenuous. Um, so, for example, with that quote is one that I have here that I definitely wanted to talk about, where she says she wants to fight and win her election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms. And in turn, she'll be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. And I think that second part is probably the loudest part. Because it's not so much that she'll be expected to defend the president, because that's partisan politics anyway. But it's after he tried to destroy me. So not only do I have to defend him, but now like he's come after me, which implies if he didn't come after her or even somehow supported her, but I doubt there would be support. But if he just didn't attack her, then she could find like, okay, well, he's not my enemy at least. Like I can still confide in him. But because he's turned on her, she's like, well, if you turn on me, I'm going to turn on you. Like I can't do this anymore. Is basically what it.
Yeah, but I feel like she could turn on him by still remaining in Congress and still being a Republican congresswoman from Georgia. She just can keep fighting for the bills she believes in, and like not necessarily blindly support Trump, which is what all the rest of the
Right.
Republicans
But
do.
my point though is that if she truly wanted to advance America first, then she would serve in opposition to the president because hey, if it's wrong, it's wrong. So I'm not going to oppose you when it's right, but I will oppose you when it's wrong. So if she stayed in power or said like I'm going to fight for America first values, blah blah blah, but instead she's just giving up and walking away. And on one level, I respect it because it is like, okay, you've read the room, it's time to go. You're not getting anywhere with your agenda, and why stick around? But it's also like, yo, if you say you're going to fight for Americans in a speech where you're giving up, like it's I don't know. That's the vibe I get at least. It's a weird thing because it felt like it was more of a personal thing, especially when she starts getting into talking about her mother and father, and like I need to spend more time with my family, my poor family. They've given so much, which is all true. This is true of any politician, but it is it came across to me very much like, look, I don't, this is getting too personal. I don't want to get into this. I don't want it to get dirty. So I'm just going to walk, which is better than sticking around and kissing the ring. But
The two theories that I have of why she is resigning is, one, she's just bailing on a sinking ship. She sees Trump's approval rating going down into the gutter, MAGA's falling apart, there's a giant civil war in the movement, the stuff with Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson and all these characters. And she was kind of also one of the characters with her spout with Trump. So maybe she's like, you know what, the whole movement's falling apart and she's getting out early. Or the threats that she's been getting, the death threats because of her spout with Trump and he's been going after her, maybe that explains the personal take that she had on like spending time with her family and stuff. Maybe those death threats have becoming so serious that she's like, this is like not safe for me or my family and I'm out. Maybe it's a combination of the two, you know?
I think it's probably a combination of the two. Because you're right about the death threats. There was definitely, I don't know how severe those were. If I remember correctly, I think there was an explosive device either found or called in at like one of her construction companies in Alpharetta. So like it's definitely prevalent.
Well, she got doxxed. Like they were mailing pizzas to her house, which is a sign of like we know where you live. And when people start like mass delivering pizzas to your house, apparently that's a thing. It's like the next step is like they're gonna start mailing you other shit or like
Right,
sending
or
in
swatting or something like
get it
that. Yeah.
swatted or whatever, right? So she's like, oh shit, now my shit is out there now, and she's probably like, this is a bit too much.
Yeah, and this is where like it does get tough because as much as I want to sit here as somebody who's not in that situation and be like, now's the time to fight, you have to get in there. Like I fully recognize, like, dude, if I was in that situation, I'd be like, fuck this, like I'm out. So
Yeah, that's actually something that Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks, he actually responded to her resignation, and he said that. Let me find it real quick because it's actually really interesting. He mentioned, I would have never imagined saying this, but don't go. Stay and fight. Even though we still disagree on so many things, you are one of the very few honest people in Congress. Stay and fight. So that was pretty interesting. Like, kind of like the populists kind of getting together and supporting each other. Cenk Uygur, obviously a progressive, leftist, Democrat, typical supporter, coming out and saying, like, no, Marjorie, you should stay because I assume because he's in favor of all the things that she's calling out, not necessarily all the things that she's supportive of, but like the Epstein files, big deal, the AIPAC, another big deal.
right, because I think this is what we need to see from Republicans. Republicans since day one, and honestly, even before day one, like before he was sworn in, they've all been bending over backward for this man, walking on eggshells, kissing the ring. Like there's just been pure like sycophant behavior, and a lot of like extreme kissing up. Like, oh, he should be on Mount Rushmore, all these other things. Um, and to have a Republican actually come out and call him out on things that are they're not leftist issues. Saying that Trump is in the Epstein files, that's not a left position. It's a fact. You know, saying that Congress has been out for 50 days or however long it was, like that's not a left position. That's a fact. And to hear Marjorie Taylor Greene be upset with this is all legitimate. Like that's why even when I don't agree with her politics or her policies, I can at least say I agree with her here. This is middle ground, and middle ground is exactly what we need in Congress. So she might have some crazy policy or some bill that she wants to push. And if we like, for the sake of argument, like if I would want my positions to be heard and my bills to be heard, then her bills should be heard and debated on the floor and whatever too. But at the very least, we need people who are capable of critical thinking and critical speech. And also on the left, we need people calling out Chuck Schumer on his stuff and Hakeem Jeffries as well, and the Democratic leadership. But I think there is already that voice on the left, but there is not on the right. The right has just been pure ass kissing, and she's really the first to break rank, unless you count Thomas Massie, who's definitely been holding Trump's feet to the fire with Epstein and has also been personally attacked by Trump and about his marriage and all this stuff.
Yeah, I would say Thomas Massie is a good example of someone staying in Congress and fighting against the establishment, in this case, Trump and everybody around him. Because he was a big part of why the Epstein vote happened. Him and Ro Khanna, they got together. So, despite him being a Republican, he actually like did something really good. So I feel like that's the bittersweet thing with Marjorie. If she is turning a new leaf, but now she's giving up her power, well, that new leaf that she's turned is like, well, it doesn't do anything anymore. It doesn't, like, what is she going to go do? Like start a podcast? Okay, cool. Who gives a shit? You're not going to change policy or bring a floor vote with a podcast, That's the bittersweet thing for me. But it's like, it would have been nice to hear a lot of this stuff while you were still in office as well. Like this, besides the Epstein thing, which yes, credit where it's due, the AIPAC thing, credit where it's due, but like she also called out the quote political industrial complex is ripping this country apart. that would have been great to hear as a congresswoman. And people can like really rally behind that and be like, yes, we have a fighter there. So I think that's kind of also where Cenk Uygur is coming from, where it's like, stay and fight because we like what you're saying. But at the same time, she hasn't been saying that for most of her career.
Right. And that's why I don't trust it. I think she tried it because re-election was coming up, and then when she saw like how crazy things were getting with Trump going after her, and like you said, the doxing and the attacks and the threats and whatnot, like she probably saw like, dude, I don't want to go up against this. So like this is too much for me. And again, I'm not judging her because I would probably do the same. It's difficult to stay in the fight. It's probably harder than anything else.
Do you think she could be naive enough to have initially thought that as a congresswoman she can really make good change happen for the people, and then having been there since she was elected, realizing like she ain't doing shit and like she doesn't have any actual power, and so now she's like, I want to get out because like I'm not even doing any, like I'm unable to do anything here because the system is so corrupt.
No, I don't. I don't think so because she's been reelected before. She's been through this process, so she's no like newbie. She's seasoned. Now you could argue maybe she was giving it like a second or third try, or like really making an effort, and now she's just realizing like I can't do it, because she did mention how like her bills are collecting dust. Like these agendas that she wants to push, they're going nowhere, and MAGA is moving, or maybe not necessarily MAGA, but the Republicans are moving away from her ideas and they're moving towards Trump's ideas, which differ from hers now. Um, so yeah, it, maybe I'm not her, so I can't say with certainty. But I don't buy it. I think this is purely self preservation. Um, and she's one of the worst, like most disingenuous people in Congress. Like when you look at her arguments with like people's in these committees and whatnot, she goes for low blows. She goes for things based on like very terrible logic, very disingenuous and blatantly dishonest logic and stances. So to expect all of that to just be whitewashed, or turn a blind eye to that just because she's saying something I agree with now, I don't trust it.
Yeah, her record is
Her record speaks
speaks
for itself.
differently. Yeah,
Right.
for sure, for sure.
And another thing that I also want to talk about is a quote that she had from her statement where she said, "If I can be cast aside, then many Americans have been cast aside as well." And I think this might be a hint of like epiphany or something like that, realization where she has definitely realized like, I'm not valued in this Republican Party. You know, I can't get anything done. The president's turned on me. Not only is he ignoring me, but now he's attacking me. And all the other Republicans are following his march. So they're just going to come right after me as well. Or at the very least, they're not going to support me. So I have no friends here. And what am I going to be friends with the left? Like, that's crazy. So I'm on my own. And I think she made a great point of saying, if this can happen to me as a member of Congress who's helped get some of these people elected, who's pushed this message, who's stumped for these people, then of course it can happen to you. And that's the message that we're seeing all across the country with MAGA Republicans being affected by, MAGA and Republican rhetoric as well as policy. Like, look at the farmers, look at what's going on with the tariffs, and just even the healthcare stuff that's going to happen with the shutdown. Most of that's going to affect red states. So, and now redistricting as well. Like, sure, this is going in your favor currently, but you're also having your voice lost on a national level in other states. So, and on top of it, if it ever flips in your state, good luck getting out from under it. So it's definitely, I think, a sign of the times, so to speak, where I think she makes a great point, and I hope that message resonates with a lot more of MAGA and Republicans, and they can see like, yeah, this, like we thought it was this, but it's not. It's something else, and I don't know if we should keep following this off the cliff because Marjorie's getting out. Maybe I should be like her. So hopefully that to me is like the silver lining is like maybe this can help communicate this more to Republicans and right leaning people. But you know, that's that's all I can really say.
I hope so. I hope you're right. I do think that if she would stay in power and voice her true positions that she kind of hinted at in this resignation, that might be a better, like, she would have more ability to affect change that way. But again, it's that catch 22 of like, was she even allowed to voice her true opinions being in the party? And now she seems like free of the shackles. So again, I'm still on the bittersweet thing where it's like, yay, she's gone, but wait a second. Like, we actually need people that say, maybe they don't even need to truly 100% believe the things that she was saying, the good things that we agreed with, but we do need more people to voice that, especially in Congress, especially like people. Basically, she was echoing half of Bernie's talking points about the two-party system. I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. So, and she did have, I guess, somewhat of a following, somewhat of like a mini MAGA movement that just supported her, that like detracted away from Trump, which I guess is good. But it's like, now what is she gonna do? Like, is she gonna be a Fox News host? Is she gonna start a podcast? Like, we'll see. We'll find out probably fairly soon. But I'm skeptical on like now what kind of change can a person like that affect. And now we have to go through the whole process of like electing someone who does call out the BS in the political system, does call out AIPAC, does call out the fact that like we do need things like term limits, and we do need more people like that in Congress. And I hope we can find more, elect more.
This is where the cynic in me says you're absolutely right. What is she going to do next? She could easily end up on Fox. She could easily end up doing a podcast. But no matter what she does, it's going to. Now, maybe this is just kind of a natural part of the process because, hey, being a congresswoman was your job and now you have to do something else for income and whatever. But the point is, when you're in public office, typically it pays a lot less than the private sector to be political. So now she could, in theory, cash in and be profiting off of all these things for herself, and then also removing the thorn in Trump's side at the same time. So it could be, I'm not saying that somebody approached her and said, like, hey, you should resign and like you'll be taken care of. But it is a situation where we have to acknowledge the very real sentiment that like regardless of what her stance is outside of power, it's not the same as it is in power. And when she was in power, she had no problem kissing the ring, staying quiet, whatever. She never spoke out, not once. And now that she's finally like on her own and on her way out, now she speaks truth to power. To me, it's sort of like Elon Musk saying, hey, Trump's in the Epstein files. You could have said that day one, but you waited until Trump went after your companies. And now so, I mean, this is something that we see common in politics, so it's not surprising, but I just don't trust it. We'll have to see, though. But I do agree that whoever comes in after her, hopefully they fight for the people and they voice things that should be voiced because left and right have both been screwing us. Marjorie's absolutely right there, but she was part of the problem, and she's not apologizing for her. She's not taking any responsibility for that, and I think that's where not only A does it make it look disingenuous, but B, like, you know, are you really for the people? Because if you were, you take responsibility for participating, but she's not. So